Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to another premiere draft of the Core Sets format, the set in which we are drafting all three of the most recent core sets together. We draft a pack of M19 first, followed by M20, and wrap it up with an M21 pack. So for our pick one, pack one here, I think we're just going to go with the solid uncommon Exclusion Mage, 3 mana for a 2/2 that returns one of your opponent's creatures to its owner's hand when it comes into play. It's just a pretty solid tempo play in any form of just tempo deck or aggressive deck generally. There are some other pretty great options at common here, but our rare is basically unplayable, really only for constructed, exiling just colorless creatures. At common, we also have the option of Lich's Caress, which is a very solid removal spell, 5 mana to destroy a creature and you gain 3 life. We have just some decent late game creatures like Colossal Dreadmaw and Spark-Tongue Dragon as well, but I think I do like Mana War style tempo based effects. Had a lot of these sort of effects in my blue-red Time Spiral sealed deck that I had a lot of fun with, so I would like to do some kind of little tempo shenanigans here. Could be a fun time. Here we have some pretty great uncommons yet again. There's Lightning Strike, 2 mana for 3 damage at instant speed, is a pretty great efficient removal spell, and Vampire Sovereign, 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, have your opponent lose 3 life and you gain 3 life. I think these two are definitely the best cards out of this pack, and it is very close between which one of these we want to play. And I think both of these would work solid with Exclusion Mage as well. Both blue-black and blue-red would be color schemes that work well. In blue-red, we'd be playing a blue-red spells kind of deck, most likely a lot of prowess kind of cards like the Aven Wind Mage here, so Lightning Strike would be good in that kind of deck. And in blue-black, we're going to be a slower, more controlling kind of deck using big evasive creatures to close out the game a lot of the time, so Vampire Sovereign will work great in that sort of deck. So really it's between these two, and I think they're both pretty exceptional. We can kind of go either way we want to go here. And I actually think I'm going to take Vampire Sovereign here. Maybe go for a blue-black flyers sort of deck. Here we have Death Baron, 3 mana for a 2/2 Zombie Wizard. It gives all of your skeletons and other zombies +1/+1 and Death Touch. Zombies are the main tribe that we see a lot of in most core sets, so we should be able to get a few things that combo with this. Obviously, it combos well with Doom Dissenter if we can get zombie tokens out of that. I think it's probably the best card in blue or black. However, the best card in this pack might actually be Declared Dominance here. This is a pretty big game ender for any green deck. Target creature gets +3/+3 till end of turn, and all creatures able to block at this turn do so. So you're often killing 2 or 3 of their creatures with this if you use this on your biggest creature, and you're also allowing the entire rest of your field to get in without getting blocked at all, because all of their creatures have to block specifically whatever you target with Declare Dominance. So this is really powerful, but Death Baron maybe for zombies. I think I'll actually take Declare Dominance here. We're not really married to any color at this point in the draft. We are very early on. We can try to move into whatever ends up being the most open. I think Sleep is a very powerful blue card for any sort of aggressive deck. It stops all of your opponent's creatures from blocking your stuff twice in a row. So if your opponent's at 20 life and you just have 10 power on the board, doesn't matter how big their board is, you can tap down every single one of their creatures, attack them for 10, and then if they don't play another creature the next turn, just do it again. I think Sleep is tremendously powerful in an aggressive deck, in any tempo sort of deck as well, so it could be good with an Exclusion Mage and cards like that. So I think Sleep is pretty good. Not very good for a more controlling deck, I feel, though, because then you're just kind of just fogging your opponent for a couple turns. Definitely not as exciting as if you're able to crack in after casting a Sleep. Now we have Doomed Dissenter for a solid creature in black, 2 mana for a 1/1, and when it dies you get a 2/2, so it's a good chump blocker, good with Sacrifice to Flex, and good at holding down the fort against more aggressive decks. Infectious Horror is a much worse black creature, being only a 2/2 for 4 mana. Sure, you get to drain your opponent a couple life, but it's very unlikely this attacks in very well when it's only a 2/2 on turn 4, so I like Doomed Dissenter better than Infectious Horror for black here. Nothing really for green. Titanic Growth is not a card I'm super excited about, so I don't think I'm taking that. And then there's just like Uncomfortable Chill in blue, and with Sleep, we really want to try to be aggressive in any of our decks that we want to run Sleep in, and Exclusion Mage even works well on more tempo-y aggressive decks, so Uncomfortable Chill is like pretty good at just holding down the fort in a slower deck, so it's not actually what I'm super looking for here. Maybe we could try to be like a blue-green deck here with Colossal Majesty. This is pretty good if you get enough creatures with power 4 or greater, obviously. You can use this to draw a bunch of cards. I think Sleep and Declare Dominance are both huge, like, game-ending sorceries for a blue-green deck. And that does seem pretty good. Aviation Pioneer is a pretty solid common creature for blue, and I do think pretty likely to play blue. So if we take Aviation Pioneer, we're just definitely playing it, whether we end in blue-black or blue-green, whereas Colossal Majesty is only going to get played in blue-green, and even then we need to be blue-green and have a lot of power for greater creatures. Yeah, maybe I'll just take Aviation Pioneer here. I think this card is very solid. 3 mana for a 1/2, and you get a 1/1 Flying Thopter out of it. Brawl Bash Ogre is a very cool card, but I don't think we get to do Rakdos here. Not a big fan of Stitcher Supplier, although it does combo with any reanimation spells. That seems like much more a card for your constructed decks than a limited. Don't think we can really rely on ending up with any reanimation spells. Bog Stomper is a pretty mediocre 6-drop. You just don't have that many room for your 6-mana cards, and you want them to have more impact than just a 6/5. So I think I'll just take like a Centaur Courser here. Not a big fan of Totally Lost either. So we can take Centaur Courser, have a few more cards towards being able to be blue-green if that ends up more open than blue-black. But I'm thinking we're definitely blue here. Definitely don't like Sovereign's Bite. A burn spell that can only hit your opponent's face is not very good. There's like very few situations where that's okay. And those situations are when you are very, very, very aggressive, I guess. Something that we're not likely to be. Take Abnormal Endurance here. We could also take Rogue's Gloves. This can be okay with a lot of flyers. And we are going to be blue. We have 2 flyers already, Aviation Pioneer and Vampire Sovereign. Yeah, if you can consistently just chip away at your opponent with just any sort of flyer, like a Thopter from our Aviation Pioneer, then that can keep drawing us cards, and that is pretty solid. Kind of like maybe Gargoyle Sentinel here, just because it's colorless and we're kind of floundering between a few colors here, so we can play it in any deck we end up in unless we're very aggressive, because then having to spend mana to get to attack in this is not good if you're very aggressive, but it does block well, and then you can use it in the late game to chip away at your opponent for the final few points of damage. I'll just take a Gargoyle Sentinel here. It's just the most open card for whatever we end up in. Now we have a Greenwood Sentinel or Thornhide Wolves in green. I think these are both very solid creatures at their mana costs. Guess I'll go with the Greenwood Sentinel. We are hurting more for the early cards than the late game cards right now. And maybe we are pushing into green-blue here. We do have a switcheroo, exchange control of 2 target creatures, trade your weakest creature for their best creature. Can be good with just random tokens like zombie tokens and stuff. Thopter tokens they're okay with. Aviation Pioneer it's actually okay with. Give them a 1/2 to take their best creature. Yeah, we might try out a switcheroo here. It depends on how many random cards like Aviation Pioneer we end up with by the end of the draft that just leave behind a 1/2 mediocre body to trade around. Here we'll take an Oaken form. Not super likely to play it, but definitely more likely than anything else in that pack. Same with Tormenting Voice. Unless we open like a really good red mythic or something, I don't think we're moving into red. We're not going to main deck a Plummet just at all, so we'll take an Act of Treason and throw a Swamp in the sideboard as we open up our next pack. So here we have a Risen Reef, 3 mana for a 1/1. When it or another elemental enters the battlefield, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it on the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, you get to just draw it into your hand. Solid card even by itself, and if we get any other elementals, it will be absolutely fantastic. So that's a great sign for green-blue. Rotting Registrar is a really solid card for black, but we already have a bit more green than black, and I think Risen Reef's pretty good too. Obviously, we won't have a ton of elementals. We only have 1 pack to really scoop them up here, but if we even just get a few, Risen Reef can be pretty exceptional. Even by itself, it's fine value, just getting that trigger 1 time to draw the 1 card. On the wheel, we'd love to see Rabid Bite, but I don't think that's particularly likely. We could get a Thicket Crasher, though, to combo with the Risen Reef and see how that works out here. Now we have a Leafkin Druid, a good card for a ramp deck, and it's an elemental to help with Risen Reef. Seems solid to me. We have a Frilled Sea Serpent, but this is kind of mediocre. We will want some amount of big, like 6 mana dorks if we are going to have some ramp, which we will with a Leafkin Druid and Risen Reef. So this is a card we could use in our deck, but it's very likely to wheel. Not a card anybody's going to take particularly highly. We could also take a Temple of Melody to help us splash in black, maybe be green, black, and blue, but we only have 2 black cards right now, neither of which are particularly impressive to splash. Vampire Sovereign's just kind of difficult to splash, requiring double black, and Doomed Dissenter's just not powerful enough to be interested in splashing it. Golos here. Golos is great in any deck. You don't have to be 5-color for Golos to be solid, so I think I'm just going to take a Golos here. I mean, it's Golos, or I don't think Woodland Champion's going to do anything for us. We don't have... I guess we have one Thopter token producer, the Aviation Pioneer creating a Thopter when it comes into play, so that could make Woodland Champion a 3-3. It's not very likely. I think we're just taking Golos here. It's Golos, Champion, Sedge Scorpion, or Octoprophet as the best blue creature. Yeah, Golos is just the most exciting to me. 5 mana for a 3-5, you can always cast it if you have your 5 mana, because it's completely colorless, and it grabs you a land when it comes into play. Super solid. If we can get the 5 different colors of lands, this will obviously be pretty insane, but I don't think that's super likely. We do have Boreal Elemental to combo with Risen Reef, which is something I would really like to do. However, I think this rare is just an incredibly powerful draw spell. For 4 mana, you look at the top 7 cards of your library and draw the 2 best cards out of your top 7. That just digs pretty deep to find what you need and find powerful cards. I think Drawn from Dreams is just an exceptional draw spell, so I will go ahead and pick that up here over the Boreal Elemental, but I do think that Boreal Elemental is very good. We have Brightwood Tracker, which can hold down the fort as a nice 2-4. We are starting to look like a slower deck here. Drawn from Dreams, tapping out on turn 4 just to not affect the board in any way. We've got like Golos grabbing lands later. I think we are going to be a slower deck that could use 2-4 bodies and mana sinks like this gives us with that 6 mana ability to dig through the top 4 looking for more creatures in the late game. I think Brightwood Tracker is pretty solid here. Could also just take Jungle Hollow again for maybe splashing black for a mildly fancy land to grab with Golos, but I think I'll just take Brightwood Tracker. Now we have Wolfkin Bond or Bone to Ash. Don't really like Wolfkin Bond that much. It is 4 power and toughness for 5 mana, which is okay, but I think just a lot can go wrong with this. If your opponent's running like unsummons and stuff, you can have a terrible time. I think I'll just take a Bone to Ash here again, because we are starting to look like a slower green-blue deck here. But Scoured Barrens is also an option. That's a land we can take off of Golos, and maybe if we just get enough random dual lands, we can just be green-blue with enough random non-basics that we can use Golos every once in a while. Probably not a thing, though, that we should be like really reaching for. Not getting anything great out of this pack, that's for sure. Just getting a 4-4 or a Tranquil Cove. Guess we'll take a Tranquil Cove. We can run that instead of an island to get white mana towards Golos, I guess. Chandra's Outrage is probably the best card in this pack, although we do have another Bone to Ash for a slower controlling deck. We also have the Frilled Sea Serpent, but we did see one in an earlier pack that will probably wheel pick 9 or 10 here, so we'll probably just pick that up there. I think I'll take another Bone to Ash. We could take a Gift of Paradise. That does help with Golos, and it helps ramp into other things. We actually don't have anything exciting to ramp into here, and from what we've seen in these packs, we are going to get Frilled Sea Serpents, but those aren't exciting to ramp into either. They're just kind of like, we've ramped into something, at the very least. Fairy Miscreant and Natural End, I think both of these are pretty much unplayable here. Natural End is just not main deckable, and Fairy Miscreant only works if you have a ton of copies of it, which is pretty much impossible in this format where we have one pack of each different set. So, nothing playable out of this pack. Even the red cards are just not splash worthy. Just bad cards here, pretty much. I will go ahead and take the Frilled Sea Serpent now, though. Give us something to ramp into. Definitely hoping for some payoffs in the final pack. We could use some Colossal Dreadmaw type effects. Just big, dorky giants. I'm taking an Elemental here that could go with Risen Reef. With Golos, if we get like some green-red or blue-red lands, we could use Lavakin Brawler. Could try to be Teamer. And then we could use like a Tormenting Voice as well. Definitely not an Act of Treason, though. Season of Growth or Metropolis Sprite, not a huge fan of either of these. Season of Growth is good with enough ways to target your stuff. Right now we just have Oaken form that targets our own creatures. Yeah, Season of Growth's not going to do much here. We'll just take a Metropolis Sprite. Although we could now scoop up all of the Wolfkin bonds that nobody's going to take, and then now we have more things to combo with the Season of Growth. But I don't even think we want to play these even if we have Season of Growth. Definitely looking for some powerful stuff out of this last pack, that's for sure. And we're off to a solid start here, getting an instant speed 4-mana draw spell. This makes it a lot easier to hold up the mana to cast Bone to Ash. So with 2 Bone to Ash, this is a pretty great combo, because then if they cast a creature spell, we just Bone to Ash it, and if they don't, we're still using our mana on a powerful effect, drawing 3, then discarding 1. So I do like Reign of Revelation for this deck. Skyscanner would be alright, as would Teferi's Protege, both just decent 3-mana dorks that can give us some card advantage. Skyscanner drawing a card when it comes into play, and Teferi's Protege allowing us to loot, drawing and discarding garbage. So we have 24 cards here. Let's cut a Wolfkin Bond. I'm going to start cutting cards as we go here to make the deck building process a little quicker. We are likely to be cutting a Lavakin Brawler. Probably not going to be trying to do the Teamer thing, but it's a possibility. There is a Colossal Dreadmaw to ramp into that I would really like, but there's also Rousing Reed, which is quite good. How many creatures do we have? We have 13 creatures right now. Let's get our non-creatures into a pile here. We do have a lot of 3-mana creatures, so we have a lot of things we can just toss our Rousing Reed onto. And it's a decent draw spell that also gives something flying, so it's pretty solid. I do really want this Colossal Dreadmaw, though. This is a difficult pick. We want both of these cards a lot. I guess I do have a lot of draw spells already and a few flyers, so we're more hurting for Colossal Dreadmaw type effects. Even though the the +1/+1 draw 2 discard a card spell, the Rousing Reed is generally more powerful. I'm going to go ahead and cut the Lavakin Brawler now. So we have not a lot here. I guess we have an Ornery Dilophosaur, which could be okay. We are pretty low on creatures, still 13 creatures here. Scoop that up, throw it at the 4-mana spot. Definitely good with other power 4 or greater creatures, because then it attacks as a 4/4, and it's always going to be able to block pretty well with Death Touch there. It seems solid to me. We also have Frost Breath for more tempo plays, which could be okay. Citizen Training draws us a card and gives something trample. Can also be okay. I think I am cutting Wolfkin Bond now. Here we do have another Rousing Reed, so we can pick that up now, but we also have good creatures. We have Quirion Dryad, which can get +1/+1 counters every time we cast a blue spell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blue spells right now. We really only have to cast 2 blue spells for this to be above the curve, because then it's a 3/3 for 2. So that is an exciting card to try to pick up here, but there's also Gnarled Sage, decent at 5 mana. Probably more interested in Quirion Dryad. Quirion Dryad or Rousing Reed here. I think we're doing fine on draw spells. I'm just going to take the Dryad here. Try to go off with that card. Now we have another Colossal Dreadmaw, so we did wheel that. Well, not wheel that, but we got another one late. My brain is doing some weird things here. Definitely taking a Colossal Dreadmaw there. So now I am a little less happy about taking the first Dreadmaw over the Rousing Reed. Take a red-green duel. Actually, no, we've got our Gnarled Sage in here, should probably take that. That would help if we wanted to play Lavakin Berserker, but we would not have to play it. Brilfist Oak's pretty solid, 4 mana for essentially a 4/5 during your turn. And if we cast any of our draw spells, if we cast I guess Drawn from Dreams doesn't work with it. So just Reign of Revelation, really. If we cast Reign of Revelation, we draw 3, give it +6/+6. So it starts as a 4/5 during our turn because we've drawn a card, and then we draw 3 more cards. 10 power? Yeah, no, that's hilarious. I like the Brilfist Oak for that. Opt would be fun to work with Brilfist Oak, but obviously we can't get both of those. Can't just take 2 cards there. Citizen Training, solid card as I said before, and it works well with the Brilfist Oak, Gnarled Sage type cards. Get extra power or get Vigilance till end of turn. So we'll take a Citizen Training. Take it to Teferi's Protege, that also works well with Brilfist Oak and Gnarled Sage cards. Nothing else in that pack that's that exciting. I don't think we're going to play Gargoyle Sentinel at this point. And we did wheel a Rousing Reed. It's actually beautiful here. That is Very good with the cards that we've just picked up. Very good with Brill Fist, Gnarled Sage, all of that stuff. I'm going to get rid of Oaken Form now because Rousing Reed's basically just a much better aura. Maybe getting rid of the Rogue's Gloves as well. We didn't get a lot of random, like 1/1 flyers to chip away. Really just the Aviation Pioneer Metropolis sprite that could work well with the gloves. Does cost a lot of mana to start equipping that to things. Take a Frost Breath here. Don't think I'm planning to main deck that when we have Sleep, which is just like uber Frost Breath. Switcheroo, probably not going to end up playing here. I guess we could use Switcheroo with a Risen Reef. That could be cute. Nah, I don't think we're switcherooing. Need to cut 3 more cards here, probably a Stone Golem. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 non-creatures here. It's kind of a lot. But I think these are all quite powerful. Cut a Frilled Sea Serpent. This is looking fine. Didn't end up with a lot of elementals to go with Risen Reef, unfortunately, but it's still a solid card even by itself. So, really just ramping into the Dreadmaws, but even just Golos to potentially just draw a card. Like you've just drawn the land out of your deck so you don't draw it later is fine. And it's a 5 mana, 3/5, nice large toughness. Good large blocker that helps us stabilize and dig towards our game-ending spells like Sleep and Declare Dominance. Both of these can just win a game out of nowhere, so if we just make the game take a while, stall it out a bit, can just really end it with those cards. Gonna cut 1 more card here. I think because we have Quirion Dryad as well, I'd rather cut a green card than a blue card. Maybe the Dilophosaur? I don't know. $16 creatures. I don't super want to cut another creature here. Maybe we could cut Cetessan Training. I mean, it does combo well with Brillfist Ogre and Gnarled Sage by drawing us a card when we play it, and then all of a sudden Gnarled Sage is hitting as a 5/6 Vigilance Trample. That's like really good. Brillfist Oak would hit as like a 7 power Trampler, because we draw 1 card, it's at 4 power, we draw 1 card off of casting Cetessan Training, it's at 6 power, Cetessan Training gets it +1, that's a 7/7 the turn we play Training. Really cool combo with that. But our other like late game threats already have Trample, the double Dreadmaw there. I do like Protege because it does help dig towards Sleep and Dominance, those kind of effects. If we're cutting, maybe we cut 1 Bone to Ash here, actually. Maybe we're not holding mana up that often because we do have just a lot of creatures we just want to dump out. A lot of powerful sorcery speed effects as well. Sleep, Declare Dominance, Drawn from Dreams, all of these really big spells and their sorcery speed. Yeah, I'll cut 1 Bone to Ash here. Definitely keep with the 17 lands because we do have some late cards like Double Dreadmaw, some 5-drops here. And we've got ways to get rid of the lands. We have Rousing Reed to discard if we have too many lands. We have Reign of Revelation lets us discard a land. Teferi's Protege can start discarding lands to draw their cards. So yeah, if we get flooded, we're fine. So we'll keep definitely 17. Maybe even 18 here. Probably not, though. We don't have like a million 6-drops. All right. This is going to be a pretty fun little blue-green tempo deck here. Just trying to slow down our opponent long enough to draw into our big, beefy creatures or our massive sorcery speed game-ending effects like Sleep and Declare Dominance. The blue overrun and the new green overrun, sort of. I'll definitely keep this hand. This hand looks great. We have that turn 2 Leafkin Druid that allows us to cast Drawn from Dreams or Reign of Revelation on turn 3, which is absolutely beautiful. If our opponent's really aggressive, we even have Exclusion Mage to just slow them down if we need to do that. Ooh, Quirion Dryad really makes me want to play that before I play any before I play any blue spells, so maybe I play Dryad here and then Exclusion Mage next turn if they play a creature. If we had another island in hand, so I know I could Drawn from Dreams next turn, I'd probably just play Druid, but I kind of like just getting Dryad out here before we cast anything else. Risen Reef is a great draw. Now we get to cast Risen Reef before we cast our Leafkin Druid, and they have nothing on the field anyway, so there's no reason not to just dump this out. Obviously going to use it pre-combat to get a +1/+1 counter on Quirion Dryad, get in for an additional damage here. Drawn into an Aviation Pioneer. Send in for 2. Opponent is down to 18. They're on a blue-red deck here. There are a lot of cards in blue and red in all of the core sets that care about instants and sorceries, so I expect a deck with a lot of those. Cards like Gutter Snipe, Enigma Drake, all that kind of stuff. I think I'll just cast Exclusion Mage here and just keep the pressure on. Make Quirion Dryad even bigger. Just time walk them. They've spent all their mana and now basically got nothing for it. They have to spend it all again to get that back out. They're down to 14 now and we have 6 power on the board. Gutter Snipe is just coming right back out. They have 1 red up though, so they could shock. No shock, looks like just a crash through to draw a card here and do a couple damage to us. Can cast Aviation Pioneer to make the Dryad even bigger, but they only have a 2/2 out, so that seems unnecessary. I think I do want to cast Leafkin Druid so I can draw a card off of Risen Reef, as well as confirm that I have at least 4 mana next turn to cast my better stuff. And of course, hitting a land off of the Risen Reef is pretty great here. Now we definitely have enough mana to do whatever spell we want next turn, although we may not be casting 2 spells in 1 turn. There is an Electrify to do 4 damage to any creature, shooting our Quirion Dryad and doing 2 damage to us thanks to Gutter Snipe. Another crash through with the Gutter Snipe. I like our opponent's deck. If Gutter Snipe's like the only creature they play all game, that would be really cool. Just use that as just a straight up win con there. I think I'll drop a Golos now. Actually, maybe just Dreadmaw here. Oh, I can't. I only have 3 creatures out now. Leafkin Druid only taps for 1, unless I have 4 more creatures, then it taps for 2 and I could get Dreadmaw. Yeah, since I can't cast Dreadmaw, we'll just play our second biggest creature, Golos, which also grabs us a land to help us cast that Dreadmaw next turn. Even if they kill another one of our creatures to stop Leafkin Druid from tapping for 2 mana this turn. 6 mana up. Definitely scared of some counter spells here. I think I'll just get in for some damage before I do anything else. Maybe trade Gutter Snipe for Exclusion Mage at this point. Goblin Wizardry it is. Alright, and they only have 2 mana up now. So definitely not going to be a counter spell for Dreadmaw. We know that's going to resolve, but we're down to 12 now just from Gutter Snipe's ability. They're certainly getting there. Eventually. Thrill of Possibility to even give the tokens prowess, so they're both 2/2s, so that they can trade just one of them for my Exclusion Mage. Very solid tricks from our opponent there. Trade happens, but they do still take 3, going down to 4 life, and I will cast a Dreadmaw. I guess alternatively I have 7... 3, 4, 5... Yeah, I have 7 mana, so I could cast Aviation Pioneer and Reign of Revelation, although I couldn't cast Pioneer and Drawn from Dreams because I only have 2 blue. Would Pioneer, Reign of Revelation be better than Dreadmaw? Give us a 1/1 flyer, so we can definitely hit in with that. No, Dreadmaw's probably just the best we've got here. Just a 6/6 trampler while they're tapped out. They shouldn't have any removal that can kill that in red, but they could have blue removal that can tap it down or throw it back into our hand. Flood of Tears. Return everything to our hands. If they returned 4 or more of their own, then they do get to dump something out for free. They did not, but they still get to get that Gutter Snipe out, and we're at 8 now. So they're getting very close to just killing us off of that. I think I need to go as wide as possible this turn. I have 6 mana, so I can cast 2 things. I could cast Aviation Pioneer, Risen Reef. Now that's probably just worse than playing a single Dreadmaw, to be honest. Kind of think I have to just play a single Dreadmaw here. I could also Risen Reef Druid to make sure that I still have plenty of cards, just keep drawing into stuff, but I don't think that's how we're winning this game. Like, we already have the card advantage. I think we have to just play the biggest threats we can. Probably discard a Drawn from Dreams or Reign of Revelation here. Probably Drawn from Dreams because it's sorcery speed and double blue. We just have so many cards to play around with anyway. We don't have the time really to dump mana into draw spells. We have to close out this game before Gutter Snipe just snipes us out of it. I really enjoy our opponent's deck. I think this was a really cool deck to run up against, win or lose here. Dragon Egg is the play from our opponent because if that dies, it turns into a 2/2 flyer with fire breathing. So they can spend 4 mana to give it +4/+0 till end of turn, hit us for 6. So that is possible to just kill us. We do have this Aviation Pioneer. I think we attack, and if they somehow survive this attack with whatever trick they're using here and then get a whelp out of it, we can survive the whelp by getting a flyer of our own. Unless they have the burn spell for that as well. Just gonna stop that there. We don't have any tricks. I could just do 6 to the Goblin Wizard if I don't want to deal with the flyer here. But I think I do want to do 3 damage to them. I mean, they're convinced that they can close out this game against me if they are... if they're doing this block there, because I am still trampling over for 3. So we probably have to just play it as safely as possible, because this means that they're sure they can kill me here. Yeah, so if they're convinced they can kill me, let's just kill a Goblin Wizard and not give them a flyer. Now... kind of do want to go white. I'll probably just play another Dreadmaw, though. Makes it really hard for them to survive another turn. We have 12 trampling power on their board. On our board, they have 3 toughness on theirs. So right now we're dealing 9 damage to them. We only have to do 4. Hard cover gives them 4 more toughness. They get to draw a discard. Alright, so they're just looting for any out here to do lethal, I'm assuming, if they're tapping down the Dragon Egg. Just trying to, like, bounce Dreadmaw, maybe, and prowess enough times to kill us with the Goblin token. Alright, we'll get there. The world may never know what they had to close out that game if they got the flying token there. There were a lot of ways they could have closed it out with a Gutter Snipe in hand as well. So that was pretty terrifying. Definitely one of those really weird situations where you've got the big trampler out. You could trample them down to 1 life, but I think it is correct to just be like, no, let me just not kill that Dragon Egg so I don't have to potentially die to a flyer next turn. And it did pan out, of course. That was a really fun game. That was a really cool deck from our opponent. We were basically always on the aggressive, but there was always a chance of losing that one, just because of how much they had chipped away at us with those Gutter Snipes, and you never know what kind of bounce spells, sleep-style effects they could have had there. So very impressive retaliation from our opponent. Let's head into round 2 here. We have the Burlfist Oak plus Reign of Revelation combo. That's a slam keep. Of course, we don't have a lot of non-land spells here, so that could be an issue. We can definitely get flooded with this hand, but Reign of Revelation helps against that, drawing us 3 more cards, and we can just discard one of these lands. That wasn't doing anything for us anyway. A suspicious bookcase, I see, from our opponent. Pretty suspicion, I think, but maybe just something in my eye. This can give unblockability for 3 mana, otherwise it's a 0/4 defender. At least our flyer gets to keep getting in there, and if we don't draw anything but lands here, we still at least get to chip away for 2 damage a turn. They throw a hard cover onto the suspicious bookcase to turn it into a looter, allowing them to draw discard every turn. That was a beautiful draw here, Exclusion Mage, so we just get to kill their hardcover and force them to recast the bookcase next turn. That's definitely the play here. They don't get to loot anymore. We've killed one of their cards without even costing us anything. I mean, it cost us 1 damage. We could have pumped up instead, but we would have wanted to play Exclusion Mage anyway to get more creatures on our board here. So that was really good. Looks like they're stuck on 2 mana, so Brilfist Oak may be able to really close this game out. No point in attacking with Exclusion Mage because they can block with a 0/4. I guess I could have attacked with both pre-combat and maybe they don't block Exclusion Mage, potentially chip away for a couple damage there. That would have been the best play. Obsessive Stitcher from our opponent, so they definitely have the draw discard spells, the looting spells, and they can return a Bog Stomper from their grave. If they hit 4 mana, they can sacrifice that, so that's pretty cool. I think we just attack with everything here. None of their creatures have any power anyway, so we might be able to poke in for a couple damage with a Metropolis Sprite here. All right, and we are going to do a massive hit with Brilfist Oak here. Discard an island here because we've got 6 mana anyway for everything else. Hit for 10. Go ahead and pump the Metropolis Sprite. We didn't draw into any 1 mana cards. I don't think our deck even has any. They are down to 6. That was fun. We got the Brilfist Oak combo out there. Now we have a Declare Dominance that could definitely end this game. We can give Metropolis Sprite +3/+3 and puff it once, so we can give it +4, hit them for 4 in the sky. We can also just Declare Dominance on one of the ground creatures, force all of their creatures to block that one, so we know we get in with the other 2. So if we Declare Dominance onto Exclusion Mage, all their blockers block there, and Brilfist and Sprite get in. Brilfist for 4, Sprite for 2. They have 2 mana up here, so we could still try to play around something. They are dead on board to Declare Dominance if they don't have anything. If they have something, it's kind of bad for us, but they're still at 6 life and we have plenty of other cards to use, so I think that we go for lethal here. Force everything to block Exclusion Mage, if possible. Again, if they stop this in any way, it does hurt, because obviously we go from winning the game right now to having to find another way to close the game. But it's not the end of the world, because then we can still cast a Colossal Dreadmaw next turn, or we could cast a Greenwood Sentinel as well as a Drawn from Dreams if we need to get on the defensive there or anything. Because it's not like we lose any of our creatures here unless they use a removal spell. So that's 6 damage coming to them on board. They have 2 mana up. Nothing on board saves them. Alchemist's Gift for lifelink will do it. But it still doesn't kill any of my creatures. Just keeps them at 3 life, though, so they can bring a Bog Stomper back from the grave. With Obsessive Stitcher, they have blocks on the ground. They won't have enough mana to return and give something flying off of the Glidemaster, so it looks like they do have to loot with Obsessive Stitcher, trying to draw into another way to survive another turn here. Discarded a Sift off of the Stitcher, because obviously they need cards that impact the board immediately. They don't have the time to be dumping a bunch of mana into more draw spells. Skymarch Bloodletter it is. Make sure that Metropolis Sprite doesn't get in there. If I attack with all, they have to block Brilfist with King Glidemaster. Bloodletter on Sprite. Exclusion Mage gets in for 2 here. Don't have any pump spells in this deck, I think, like no Titanic Growth in here, so no reason to Drawn from Dreams pre-combat. I think we just attack in and then cast Dreadmaw post-combat. So the trade there and the chump block there. They get hit for 2. We still have a Brilfist Oak on this board and they're down to 2 life. And here is our Dreadmaw. Another loot from the Stitcher. And there is the concession. Opponent definitely did stumble on mana a bit, which is quite painful for them. especially against the tempo play that we had to bounce their creature back to their hand and get rid of their hard cover. So definitely our pick one, pack one, putting in a lot of work there, the Exclusion Mage that game. Of course, they did stumble on mana for quite a while after that, though. Pretty painful. Heading into round 3 now, 2 wins and no losses thus far. Do need to draw some lands here, but we have Greenwood Sentinel and Metropolis Sprite to get things started. We have a way to close out the game with this Sleep later. Our opponent starts off with a Short Sword. I think I would rather play a Greenwood Sentinel here. That way if they don't play a creature turn 2, I get in for more damage. Because if I don't draw land next turn, then I don't get to pump Sprite and play something. They do just have a Barkhide Troll, so that's not good for us. Now we cannot attack in at all. Wouldn't have attacked in this turn anyway because I did not draw land, so I would have rather just played another creature than hit for 2 damage with Sprite. I guess I would have hit them for 1 had I played Sprite first. Definitely can't block Barkhide Troll. That's a 4/4, and it can give itself hexproof. And a Maze Mind Tome from our opponent. Well, at least we get to crack back now. Awesome. We got the mana for Risen Reef, which is very important. This can hopefully hit our 4th land here. If not, it does still draw us another card, gets us closer to the next land. All right, we did hit the 4th mana. Very good. Just send in the attack here. Could drop a Burlfist Oak next turn. We'll see what they end up doing here. It's definitely a game where I foresee Sleep saving us from dying very soon here. Opponent goes for the Maze Mind Tome. Draws a card and drops a land. They're on green-white, 2 forests, 2 plains. Concordia Pegasus is the play this turn. We do have 5 mana available now, so I can cast a Gnarled Sage, a 4/4 with Reach is pretty good to block that Concordia Pegasus. I don't have any way to kill that thing. If I want to like attack in this turn. Could sleep it and hit for some here, but I think the longer we wait on sleep, the stronger it's going to be. Just drop a Gnarled Sage. It can also trade 1/1 with the Barkhide Troll if they don't have any tricks. Maze Mind Tome definitely putting in some work for our opponent because we're not in an aggressive enough start to punish them for just taking time, drawing extra cards here. They definitely have the card advantage throughout the late game here with a card like this, drawing them multiple cards and also gaining them life for a race situation. Could block with Sentinel, Sprite, and Reef here, and I'm actually kind of okay with that because they kill 2 of the 3. Unless they have a trick, and I think these creatures are pretty expendable. None of them even attack well against the 1/3 Pegasus, so these creatures aren't really doing much for us anyway, so we'll go for the triple block and just see what happens here. Obviously our deck doesn't have very many elementals either, so Risen Reef, even with its powerful effect, is just equally expendable with the other 2. Kill the Sentinel and the Reef. Sure, we get to keep our Metropolis Sprite around now, and Concordia Pegasus can get a Short Sword on it, turn it into a 2/4, but Gnarled Sage could still attack into that. Of course, our opponent does drop a 5/5 Vigilance here, which is very threatening to our life total being down at 12 already. I guess we drop a Burlfist Oak. That is going to give us the best retaliation with Setessan Training on it. We can do a lot of damage that way. And Setessan Training would obviously also give our Gnarled Sage Vigilance, so we're probably going for a Sleep next turn. We're just going to have to take a big hit here and hope that Sleep into 2 combat steps is enough to finish off our opponent. Short Sword onto the Baloth. We are just going to take 6 here, pretty sure. Could go for the double block, Gnarled Sage and Burlfist Ogre. Ogre, Burlfist Oak. We know that they didn't have any tricks last time we went for a triple block, so they would have had to just draw into a trick right now. I guess it is a trade up. We're trading our 4-4 reach into their 5-5 vigilance, even if we don't count the short sword. If we do count the short sword, it's definitely a trade up, a 4-4 reach into a 6-6 vigilance. They did draw another card off the Maze Mind Tome, though, so they've drawn 2 cards this turn. So they definitely had a couple chances to draw into a Titanic Growth or some sort of pump spell to get us if we try to double block here. How much damage do we hit per attack if we cast a Sleep? We hit for 8 per attack, potentially 9 with Sprite's ability. We can probably outrace them here. I think I just take this and go to 6. The speed at which that hit me makes me think they probably didn't have a combat trick, so we could have went for the double block, but there was definitely risk there. It certainly pans out worse for trying to crack back with Sleep here. If we hit a 6th mana, we can definitely outrace them. Sleep plus Citizen training here. No 6th mana, but Reign of Revelation here. Actually huge. A really big combat trick at instant speed with our Burlfist Oak. That being said, I think we're just going to sleep. Go for lethal next turn. Yeah, they're down to 8. We've got this crazy field here. They're going to need a lot of blockers here. If they can just untap their Vigilant Baloth, though, then we do just die, but I don't know what on earth in a core set is just going to randomly untap a creature. They don't have enough counters on the Maze Mind Tome to gain life off of it yet. They need 2 more. Obviously, Citizen Training and Reign of Revelation, both huge pump spells with Burlfist Oak to make sure we can still crack in for lethal if they block anything else. And actually with Trample too, just throw Trample onto the Burlfist and really go in there. That should just get there on board, right? 7 Trample, we hit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's dead on board right now. If we pump Sprite. There's the draw out of Maze Mind Tome, so we know they don't have any tricks. We know that this is just lethal. I would rather just do the bigger, flashier way to kill them and drop a Reign of Revelation here. Discard a Draw from Dreams. That'll get there. Pretty scary game there, but definitely Sleep showing off how brutal that card is. Our opponent was definitely in a position where it did really look terrible for us, but a Sleep can turn things right around. Very powerful, overrun style effect to turn things into your favor. Again, I would not recommend it in a more controlling deck, because then you're just fogging your opponent for a couple turns. It's definitely better in an aggressive deck where you can do something like we just did there, where all of a sudden we're turning things around, we're shutting off every one of their blockers, so we know we just get in for the maximum amount of damage for the first turn, and a lot of damage the turn after that, even if they play a blocker like they did. So this hand is a little bit awkward. We do need to hit 1 more mana, but if we do, we have Drawn from Dreams or Burlfist Oak, depending on if we hit a forest or island, either of which will be pretty good. We're playing against another blue-green deck here. They start off with an Anticipate, digging for the best card out of the top 3 cards of their library. And a Psychic Corrosion will start things off for our opponent. So a mill deck it is. We are going to have to outrace whatever sort of control they do to us here. We're getting milled 2 cards a turn. Actually a great mill for us there. We really need a 4th mana, and they've milled 2 non-land cards, so that was pretty lucky for us. If our opponent wasn't on a mill deck, we'd be having a really bad time here, because then we just cast Risen Reef next turn and hit a Reign of Revelation, still stuck on mana. Of course, still stuck on mana yet again, so I'm going to throw a Citizen Training onto Aviation Pioneer, try to draw into our 4th land, just use this as a cantrip. They can, of course, just like unsummon Aviation Pioneer to counter this, which I think would be the play if you're like a mill deck just trying to control things. Oh, they're just going to straight up counter it. See, I don't know about that. Because then if I just like had a land here, then it would be a little weird. Definitely a big, bold counterspell there. It does allow them to keep all of their mana up for something else, though. Befuddle here, slow us down. Another card. Oh my god. 5 non-lands to start this game off, and they do have the unsummon as well to throw in the Thopter. Well, there's our first 2 lands. This would be a pretty rough one to lose from just like mana situations. Oh my god. I should not have said anything yet again. We'll start with Teferi's Protege here. This can allow us to draw, discard, hit our next land. Like, even with all of these kind of tricks to play around with our stuff, I think if we just hit our lands on curve, this hand would absolutely trample over and crush our opponent. Of course, they milled 2 lands again. Definitely shaping up to be a loss here at the rate of which we're drawing it on lands. We'll see, though. We're at 19 cards in library already. We're already halfway to dead on the mill aspect. If I hit a land every turn from now on, I do get to drop a Gnarled Sage, then a Dreadmaw, then go for a sleep kill. We mill 3 cards a turn because we draw 1 and they mill 2. So right now we're on a 6-turn clock. 6 turns to close out this game. 1, 2, 3, 4. Currently, I think we're doing okay to maybe find a way to kill them. If they're just going to get aggressive on us, I think we just take it and crack back. Ooh, they didn't pump the Thorn Lieutenant, so they have something in their hand here. Warren of the Woods, big 5/7 Vigilance. When it becomes a target of a spell or ability and opponent controls, they get to draw 2 cards. Well, definitely want to use Sleep to shut that down, but we don't have another blue source yet, so Centaur Courser it is, and we can't attack into that. Yeah. This is just a mana issues loss. Definitely a part of the game. Don't really want to count my chickens before they've hatched, but we need a blue source and we need it like now. But as you can see here, our opponent didn't even need to be milling us to win this game, because now they just have a bigger, better field than us to just crack in at us. Because we've just missed on land drops long enough to have barely anything on board right now. No attacks. Alright, well, draw a 5 mana card with 4 mana on board. My land draws in the core sets format have been way worse than like literally any other draft format I've played recently. It's kind of absurd. As we saw with the Boros deck that we were playing in draft 2, had a relatively aggressive curve, only a few 4 or 5 mana cards, and it was always just like I draw 3 lands and every 4 or 5 mana card in my whole deck. Good lord. 6 cards left in the deck. There's just no way at this point. Well, certainly lost the coin flip that game. Rolled snake eyes for sure. So 3 wins and 1 loss. That is our first loss. So we have definitely a bit of breathing room before we're absolutely out of this draft. Hopefully the mana situations will go a little better next time around. Ooh, you know what might be the problem here? Let's do a quick little deck check here. Arena server having a bit of issues right now. So, the problem actually has nothing to do with the way the deck built. The problem is that we're a green-blue deck, but we're not showing off the new Quandrix sleeves. That was the problem. Now everything's fixed. We've got the Quandrix sleep deck. I'm not a superstitious fellow, but the Strixhaven sleeves have to be a good omen, right? We'll find out here. This will be the first game with the Strixhaven sleeves, so it depends on how this game goes overall. As always, during these waiting times, I do have timestamps in the description of every one of these videos to skip to whatever round. Okay. Good start right now. Got that Risen Reef turn 3. That has always helped. We've got Metropolis Sprite turn 2, so we're even curving out a little bit here, especially if we hit the 4th land for the Burlfist Ogre. I don't know why I keep calling it an ogre. It's not an ogre. It's just not an ogre at all. Gonna play Metropolis Sprite first, that way Leafkin Druid can draw us a card off of Risen Reef as well, if our Risen Reef does not get immediately killed. It definitely would back in M20. You would always just kill Risen Reef as soon as possible. But in the conjunction of all of the formats, M19, M20, M21, we are much less likely to have more elementals. We did draw the 4th land, which is great. We even get to ramp it to 5 mana immediately next turn for the Gnarled Sage. So we can play Gnarled Sage next turn, and then if we hit a 6th mana, we get to play Druid and Oak in the same turn. Our opponent starts with Waker of Waves. Really fun card. Definitely loved drafting this card a lot because it was great in the blue-black Reanimator decks because you get to discard it, use it as a little draw spell, and then reanimate it later with a black spell to bring it back from your graveyard to the battlefield. One of my favorite strategies back in M21. Our opponent is on blue-green though, so they're probably just playing it to have a nice late game 7 mana card that also cycles to help get lands in the early game if you're stuck. Transmogrifying Wand. I don't think that's super good against our deck. I mean, it is actually, because it's good against Gnarled Sage and Burlfist. Oak. It's not super great on the current board though, because currently I can just keep attacking with these little things. To play 1 card here. Do I just play a Gnarled Sage? I mean, it's going to get transmogrified, which kind of sucks, but it's still going to be 1-2. Kind of want to play like a Leafkin Druid and a Quirion Dryad. Just draw more cards here. Go wide rather than big. Transmogrifying Wand, definitely the most powerful at killing big creatures. Not the best at facing an opponent who's gone wide with a lot of little creatures. Thornwood Falls comes into play tapped, but will gain a life for our opponent. They're going to transmogrify the Quirion Dryad. That's actually a plus for us because we don't have any more blue cards in our hand. 6, 7, could have 8 mana here. Not enough mana to cast both of these anyway. I think I'll hold this island in my hand for Teferi's Protege, and anything that allows us to draw a card and discard a card. Reign of Revelation being another option. I think I'll drop... Which would I rather they kill? Which would I rather have be a 2/4? Probably Gnarled Sage, because Burlfist Oak plus other draw spells is just so much fun. I don't know if it's like actually better than Gnarled Sage, but on the times we do get to combo together, that is a lot of fun, and I'm sure that's a lot of what Quandrix is trying to do. Don't know yet. I haven't been paying a lot of attention to the spoilers, trying to go in a little bit blind. But maybe Quandrix is pretty combo-y. Go like Burlfist Ogre and draw a million cards kind of stuff. They have a 3/5 blocker here, so I still get to attack with both of these into that, and we get in for 2 at least there. Definitely not drawing well right now. But Risen Reef has drawn us some extra cards to hopefully make up for that. Our opponent is just a red mana away from actually activating Golos' effect. We get in for 1 more damage by sending in with Risen Reef as well. Do I have any more elementals even in my deck? If I don't have any more elementals in my deck, I guess I might as well attack with Risen Reef. I don't. So I attack Risen Reef. They probably block Risen Reef. We hit for 6, 7, 8 here. They might just block the 4/4 though, in which case we just get an extra damage and don't even lose anything. Yeah, no, they're at a low enough life total. They probably have to block that Sage. Oh, they don't. All right, cool. I'm actually still fine with that because we don't have any more elementals. I will discard. Well, I will play an island now. Just going to hold on to 1 land, not really going to hold on to a giant pile. Opponent's at 5 life now. No matter what happens here, we've got a wide board. The only wraths I can think of in the core sets are multiple white mana. There's the red source for Golos, but it does enter tapped, so we don't have to worry about it this turn. If they're going to Transmogrifying Wand something, they have to do it as a sorcery. They do have the 1 mana up to do it, as well as playing a Rocks Oracle here. Could try to close out this game with Metropolis Sprite if they don't turn that into an Ox. If they do turn that into an Ox, okay. Well, then I still have a 4/4 and a 4/5 attacking every turn, which is pretty good. I guess Rocks Oracle trades up into the 4/4, unless I draw Cetessan Training, the best possible draw at that point, I think, because now Burlfist has Trample and 7 power. Gnarled Sage has additional toughness and vigilance. We attack in really well now, and I get to drop Colossal Dreadmaw, which is what I have drawn off of the Cetessan Training. Absolutely beautiful draws there. This may even be lethal right now because of the Trample. They can block there and take 2. Block there, they take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's immediate lethal, I'm pretty sure. The most damage they can stop is stopping 5 with Golos by blocking Burlfist with Golos. And there's the concession. That was an absolutely wonderful draw. Absolutely insane draw. Because if our opponent got 1 more turn, they get to spin the wheel on Golos, which can... It can... like do nothing if they're unlucky, but it can also just completely change the course of the game if they are lucky. So our deck really helping us there, and not even giving them the chance to spin Golos once was phenomenal. So turns out the Quandrix sleeves are what it's all about. Thank you, Quandrix sleeves. Gotta represent Strixhaven. It's not really representing though, because like if I wanted to represent my college, it'd have to be Lorehold sleeves, and our deck is green-blue, so we're not Lorehold. We're not Lorehold. It's actually kind of crazy. I never thought when I started this game for a long time that I would end up like having like red-white as my favorite colors. For a long time, it was just mono green. Just green was my favorite stuff. But then just lately, I've really had a lot of fun with just mono red, just burning people out. And then... I also just like Boros aggressive decks, and then the whole theming of Lorehold is really cool to me. The Tomb Raider, Indiana Jonesy aspect of it, alongside the artifact synergies. I do love artifact style effects. Maybe I just love a lot of things in Magic. Maybe I don't actually have a particular like favorite color. I just like everything. If I draw an island, Leafkin Druid can ramp me into a Drawn from Dreams next turn, but I'm not going to play the way where if I draw an island, I'm really good. I'm going to play to where no matter what, I have a great play next turn. Next turn, I just drop down a 2/3. I have a 2/2 and a 2/3 out there. We're playing against green-red here. They start with a Scorch Spitter. Could be like green-red elementals. That would be really impressive if they get any more synergies than this. Honestly, they've won the lottery, because elementals are really only in M20, as we've seen from our own experience. I'm actually just going to trade here, to be honest. A little sad for the Quirion Dryad. That could have been much bigger later, but I think that our deck is the kind of deck that can have just a lot of powerful cards for the late game, so we would rather not just take a bunch of damage on an early aggressive start, and I'm really glad I did that because now they're just keeping up with the very aggressive start. We do have 4 mana now, but we don't have double blue, so I get to cast Leafkin Druid and hold up Teferi's Protege's effect here. Can also Setessan Training, so Protege can trade into the Trailblazer, I guess. Yeah, if I use Protege's effect, I'm essentially drawing a card and then discarding Setessan Training anyway. So here I just discard Setessan Training and draw a card right now, as well as buff Protege to being large enough to trade for Trailblazer. So that seems solid to me. Just need 1 more mana for Dreadmaw, just need a blue for Drawn from Dreams. I'd rather just drop Dreadmaw first here. Big old 6/6 Trample should be pretty good at blocking what they have right now. If they attack in, that's just like a guaranteed Titanic growth, unless they're the best bluffer. Risen Reef is the draw. No other elementals in my deck, so I don't really want to drop that out right now. I think I just Drawn from Dreams here. They could triple block Dreadmaw. Do I want to attack in? I block there, take 4. I think I do want to attack in. I'm winning the race. I deal 6 and then I take 4. Maybe they will triple block here, but that would also be very good for me. Let's get the best cards out of our top 7 here. Wow, our top 7's pretty bad, so I'm glad to get these out of the way, that's for sure. Tons of lands. Probably Declare Dominance and Exclusion Mage here. Or Exclusion Mage and Greenwood Sentinel even. No, Declare Dominance seems pretty huge here. We can wipe their whole board out with a Declare Dominance. And we actually do have 6 mana thanks to Leafkin Druid, so if I don't want to Declare Dominance, like if they kill Dreadmaw somehow, then we just cast Risen Reef and Exclusion Mage. Just slow them down a bit again and draw another card. Chandra's Outrage to kill Leafkin Druid to stay aggressive, sure. So we take 6 here, go down to 7. Hopefully, I was going to say, this is definitely an Exclusion Mage play now, because Declare Dominance just does 3 more damage. That seems bad for me. As much as I would love to Reign of Revelation, I think Exclusion Mage is just a lot safer here. Lower the amount of attackers they have, and get another blocker of our own. Was not expecting them to kill the Leafkin Druid, but I guess I should have expected that. In a red-green deck, they were much more likely to have a way to kill the Druid than the Dreadmaw. So maybe I probably should have grabbed Exclusion Mage and the 2-mana 2/2. Is this lethal if I declare dominance? I have 9 power. They have to block with the giants. It's not lethal, but if I don't do that, then I die next turn because the giant can make one of my creatures unable to be blocked. So it's close to lethal, puts them down to 2 life, and it gets rid of their only big threat. Pride Malkin is still hitting us, though. But we might be able to trample over for lethal next turn now. We have 6 trampling damage. They have 3 toughness that we know about. They have the 1 toughness from Pride Malkin and 2 more from Magmut. Of course, if they have Titanic Growth or something, that will just end us here. Lavakin Brawler is 4 toughness. So now they have 6 toughness out to block the Dreadmaw. They might even attack with Pride Malkin here. It'd be a bold attack, but we know what we have in our hands, so we know it would be a good attack for them, but I could definitely understand them being scared about it. And by holding back the Pride Malkin, they have enough power to trade into the Dreadmaw, and I only kill 2 of the creatures, not all 3 of them. I can only play 1 more card here. I think I attack here, I kill Brawler and Magmut, and then I play Gnarled Sage. It's just bigger than Pride Malkin, and it'll hit for lethal, so they have to just hold it back and then chump block that next turn. Yeah, I think we attack in, kill the Brawler and Magmut. They have to block here, and they basically have to triple block to give them the best chance. So we'll play the biggest threat that we can here. Definitely not Reign of Revelation. Maybe Risen Reef is definitely an option there, because it would trade for Pride Malkin if that attacks in. And it also does draw us a card when we play it, so it wouldn't be the worst, but I think Gnarled Sage is just better here. We've got Golos coming out. Let's see. They probably double block here. Yeah, they basically have to double block here, so we don't really need to Rain of Revelation until they block, and then we can just like really get them. Just kill their whole field without losing a creature, because that's 4 power, so 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Ooh, they go for the single block. All right, well then we'll just like Risen Reef, I think. Yeah, they just have a 3/3 out. We're at 5. Yeah, we should be safe, because even if they have a removal spell, you know, they kill Risen Reef and then they do like 1 to us. Oh my god, the Aviation Pioneer was like the perfect draw off of the Risen Reef. Now we're tremendously safe, and there's very little they could do to not die on a crackback. If they have 1 removal spell, they kill Sage. Attack with these 3, hit for 2. Well, as bummed as I was, drawing very poorly in the game that we lost, being a little salty for it, we are drawing exceptionally well in the other games, so I have got to admit that. Probably looked pretty embarrassingly salty during that game, looking back at it. Turns out we're just one of the lucky players ever in the other games, so it all balances out. As the Quandrix would do, they check all the equations, they balance out the RNG, I don't know. Math words. Here we are in round 7. We're at 5 wins and 1 loss, so anything that happens here I'm very happy with. Of course, hitting at least those 4 wins to get our 1,400 gems back. Hitting 5, we do get all 1,500 gems back out of this to be able to run it back into another draft as soon as possible. This hand is very awkward. We definitely want to draw some of the cheapest cards in our deck if we want to have a great chance here, but we have really good mana and great late game cards. So depending on what we're up against, this hand can be fine. And being up against blue-black, I think this hand will be fine. If we were up against Boros, we'd probably just get crushed immediately, but we're up against a slower color pair. Definitely not going to attack in with my 1/1 here. Dryad looking pretty weak this game. Only 1 blue spell in hand, and it being a counter spell makes it not 100% guaranteed to get cast anytime soon. Just take 1 from the flyer here, playing it safe in case we have an instant speed spell for the Dryad. I think I'd rather hold on to Bone to Ash than put a 2/2 on this board. Attack in with the flyer again, just take 1. 5 mana, and it's just going to be our turn. Well, maybe we're both just sitting here on a pile of counterspells. Gnarled Sage can block the Thopter. I think I'd rather have Golos get countered than Gnarled Sage, so I'm just going to play a Golos. No counter for it, but obviously in a black deck they could absolutely have removal spells for it. Obviously not a great combo with a colorless card, the Quirion Dryad looking really sad here. They do have the murder for Golos, so we got that out of the way on our non-reach creature, at least. And we do have 7 mana now this turn. We discard a card. Okay, we got a ton of stuff to discard, but still 3/3 flyer that draws them a card is really nice here. Would have been a very good situation for our Bone to Ash. But thanks to the land we got off Golos, we do get to cast both of our creatures here. So we will. And our 4/4 reach is big enough to block any of their flyers. Unless they have another murder, which they do have a lot of cards, and drew another off of Symbiont, so could absolutely happen here. Agent of Treachery. We only have 3 power on the board. Sleep's not going to do anything for us. We hit them for 4 a turn, I guess. Don't even have 4 blue, so I can't sleep and hold up a Bone to Ash. Yeah. Agent of Treachery, another one of those cards. Losing to bomb rares of core sets past. So hit for 4. We kind of do have to just slow them down here, don't we? Because we don't have good blocks for anything. So We are playing the Faded Defensive Sleep, which is not very good. But it'll have to be good enough for now. Holding on to this land in case I draw anything that allows me to discard to draw. Ooh, another card that we have that is a draw and discard spell, Rousing Reed. We haven't drawn that a single time all day, so maybe we'll hit a Rousing Reed or something. Suspicious Bookcase, alright. I did play the land there kind of instinctually after literally just saying I wasn't going to play it, just in case of Rousing Reed or something. We'll see if it ends up mattering. Playing on a standard bear, yeah, it's not going to matter. Therefore, their field is absolutely massive. And finishing blow to kill my Dreadmaw as well. This is definitely not the game for us. Definitely in hindsight, an opener that we should have mulliganed. We'll just send a message here and kill Agent of Treachery and die to everything else. Because Agent of Treachery is a devastating card. So 5 wins and 2 losses now. Only 2 wins away from getting a full 7-win run, but only 1 loss away from running away. I was going to say running away with nothing, but running away with just a solid 1500 gem run. Get what we paid in back. Got the Dryad again, with Drawn from Dreams turn 4 guaranteed, double blue, and 2 others. Definitely a better hand. We have early game plays, and Drawn from Dreams grabs our late game plays. This one is a definite keep. Opponent in the Think Tank on their opener. Alright. Opponent is going first here, which is not ideal. I think this hand is better on the play, because getting Quirion Dryad out earlier is better, so playing it after your opponent's already played their 2-drops and stuff is definitely a lot weaker. Radiant Fountain from our opponent, so maybe some kind of life gain combo deck. Yep, there's a Daybreak Champlain, a life linker there. I think I will start with a Greenwood Sentinel here so we can actually block that, but next turn I'll play Dryad followed by turn 4 Drawn from Dreams. Since we're not going to play a blue spell turn 3 anyway, drop that Sentinel first. We do draw into a Declared Dominance, one of our better late game cards. Happy to see that. For the future, if Audacious Thief attacks in and they don't use any removal spells, we will trade with our Greenwood Sentinel here. Stop them from just drawing a card every turn. If they do have a combat trick, that is good for them. That is kind of the dream draw. Audacious Thief into any sort of combat trick to eat your opponent's blocker and keep your thief on board. Skeleton Archer, also kind of the dream draw against a 1 toughness creature. Of course, makes this Drawn from Dreams a lot more embarrassing. We're not getting a counter on our thing anymore. Well, these are not the cards I'm looking for either. I guess they have a 3-3 on board, so getting a 3-3 would be nice to trade into that. I'm kind of thinking just Centaur Courser, Reign of Revelation here. Just keep drawing cards and trying to outvalue our opponent that way. Centaur Courser at least holds back the Daybreak Chaplain, but it will just trade with the Archer. Not going to hold back anything against a Star-Crowned Stag. I feel like we have hit a lot of lands here, and we even digged a ton of lands away with that Drawn from Dreams. Definitely does happen when you're digging a million cards into your deck. You're going to hit a million lands. I'm just going to cast Setessan and Training here. We need to draw something that's better in this position, and Setessan and Training doesn't do much, so we're going to just cycle it to draw something else. Dilophosaur does help, although not that much because of the stag. Sleep is really what we're looking for here. Liliana's Devotee. Another just good attacker. We only have 6 mana here, so I can't cast 2 things. I can only cast 1 thing. Could cast Declare Dominance just to kill the Devotee, but then I take 7 on the crackback. I don't really think we have a chance here. I guess our only hope is if we like Burlfist Ogre. Oh, why is it always an Ogre? Burlfist Oak, and then draw into the Sleep, because we could Oak and then Sleep, and Sleep 2 turns with a Burlfist Oak that can't get blocked is just like always lethal in this deck, obviously with Reign of Revelation. So we just play the Oak and hope to draw Sleep. We can also play Dilophosaur so we could at least kill that stag finally. It's one of those 2, I think. Now we'll play the Dilophosaur so we could maybe kill the stag and try to actually block things by doing that. But we take 3, 4, 5, 6 here because we only block 1 thing. And then the Devotee makes a zombie. Now, probably should have played Oak, because if we don't draw Sleep, it doesn't matter what we do at all, actually. Because the Devotee just makes a zombie here, too. But either way is a trade, so it doesn't really matter what they tap. Actually, no. We were right to play Dilophosaur. I'm just going through all of the math and different iterations in my head. If we played the Oak, even if our next draw was Sleep, they just tap down Courser and we have to block with Oak to survive. Because then we take 9. I guess we block Chaplain, and then Oak does survive. Yeah, no, it was still to play Oak. We just play Oak, and then we block Chaplain. That would be the play that gives us the best chance of winning if we draw Sleep. They have an Aerial Assault, too. Staunch Shieldmate, and they have the mana to spit out the zombie. We draw a Brightwood Tracker, so it would not matter. We have 7 mana here. Oak plus Tracker. Yeah, nothing's going to get us out of that one. And that is going to end today's Premier Draft of the Core Sets format. Unfortunately, just drew our cards at kind of the wrong time. They lined up pretty poorly against that draw from our opponent. Obviously, having the 1/1 Quirion Dryad getting shot by the Skeleton Archer, a bunch of plays like that for our opponent to 2-for-1 us and 1-up us in ways like that was very good. So not a bad draft overall. I think that was a really powerful deck, super fun deck. Nice 5-3 run with it. I think it absolutely could have been a 7-win deck. A couple of those losses were just very unlucky. But so were a couple of those wins, so it absolutely could have gone either way. Definitely a fun draft all around that time. Really nice, interesting deck to play around with, that Brillfist Oak being a super fun card. Well, you have officially made it to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more of this content, do everything that you're already doing. Stick around, like, comment, subscribe, all of those goodies. It'll help YouTube recommend the video to yourself and others more often with their weird algorithm thing. And at the end here, I would like to thank you all very much for 800 subscribers. We're doing really, really well lately. Tons and tons and tons of subscriptions coming out from these Core Sets videos lately, so thank you all very much for that. I will keep these videos up as long as the Core Sets format is up on Arena. Of course, it will be swapping over to Cube drafts again next week, and I'll be doing those until the launch of Strixhaven after this. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for all the subscriptions lately. It has been an overwhelming amount of support, and we are well on our way towards the 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year goal that I kind of set for myself back at the start of this year. And yeah, it's been pretty great. So thank you all very much. And as always, I'll see you all again tomorrow for some more Magic Arena.